Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We're so excited to join Lisa Lane here once again. Excited to have her back. She took a little bit of a vacation. Turns out to be a huge vacation. You can see it in her face for those of you that are not live with us on the Zoomcast, but she looks relaxed and fantastic. How was it? Where did you go? Tell us.
Oh my God, it was amazing. So took a break, just took 7 days off and went to Barcelona to celebrate La Mercè, which is the Catalonian and Barcelonian festival for ending summer, going into the fall.
Yeah.
And I went and did some scuba diving and just kind of, got some refreshed energy back.
Great. Well, congratulations. I had a great time speaking to Cameron, one of their other coaches. Let's point out myteenlifecoach.com. Lisa Lane, just introduce yourself to some of those that may not know.
Yeah, absolutely. Lisa Lane, our website, myteenlifecoach.com. We work with teenagers and their parents and families, especially with today's world, Generation Z and the alphas that are coming, and getting young adults ready for our workforce and our future leadership. And what we do is we partner with kids and their families to help them go from just functioning and getting through life to actually thriving and achieving their goals and their dreams. So we love our work. I'm so glad you got to meet Cameron. I knew you would love her.
I did, absolutely. But I also missed you as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So tell us about some of the work. What did you have in mind for us today? Let me ask you off the top. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sure. So actually it was interesting because Cameron she gave me a break for 2 weeks and it allowed me to go sit by the Mediterranean Sea for a while and really just think about stuff, right?
Nice. Yeah.
And what's so cool is, normally when I go away, I'll just continue working because, my job I can do anywhere in the world. But this time I really just went off the grid for a while just to kind of, get my thoughts back together. And lo and behold, of course, Americans are everywhere. I meet an American lady there who is a retired school teacher in the Atlanta, Georgia area.
Wow.
And so I got to have some really interesting conversations with her about, why she retired, when she retired, what her story was. And that really coincided well with one of the things that I really wanted to tell a story about today. So I thought maybe we could just talk about that.
Please, absolutely. Tell us more.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things that I took away from our conversation was, her retirement worked out just at the time that the pandemic was quote unquote over. So it just happened to work out that way. And so, we really got to talk deeply about what the experience was like for teachers. And from her perspective, she was an elementary school teacher, and what her observations were during the pandemic, afterwards, getting ready for retirement, before that, all of that stuff. And one of the things she said to me that just really stuck in my head was the kids that were hit the hardest by the pandemic were grades 3 to 5 at the time. So if you think the years 2020, 2021, grades 3 to 5, then in today's terms, in this fall school year started, they were grades 5 to 7, right?
Okay.
So I was like, okay, tell me why. She said, well, those 2 years in elementary school is absolutely core learning when it comes to those absolutely fundamental academic necessities and their academic skills, right? Like learning the concepts and how to problem solve. And she said that was just such a critical part. And those kids who were now virtual, for that time, they really lost, something that the virtual school just cannot meet is that touch point where the teachers get to be hands-on with the kids on learning long division and, oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like those super basic math concepts, for example, English, reading comprehension, stuff like that. So I said, okay, so those kids now are grades 6 or grades 5 through 7, if we generalize, right? So I let that just kind of sit, and I was just, really thinking about it. And then when I got back to working with some of my clients, I had a mom, I was doing a parent session with a mom, and she was just talking about how incredibly stressful it is when her now fifth grader has to, and it's so uncanny how she spoke about this. Her, she couldn't do long division in class and had complete panic anxiety meltdowns, like
Wow.
couldn't teacher just couldn't cope with this kid. And so
Hmm.
then of course, go to the principal's office, then call the teacher, then all these things. And so I did some research. I spoke with Cameron, of course, because she's a journalist by training, so she,
Yes, ironic. We had a lot in common. The way she was
yeah.
talking and things she was saying, I was like, I think that way. Like totally a lot in common. Yeah.
Yeah. So of course, I was chatting with her about this, and she goes, you know what? I saw this article on NPR, and it kind of just like coincides with what we are just talking about. And what she was talking about is how this article highlights that in this school year, teachers are being trained more or made more aware of trauma-informed teaching skills
Yeah.
around picking up the anxiety and stuff for this particular group of kids, grades 5 through 7. And so, we were talking about the statistics. They were saying that after 2021, there was a 40% increase in emergency room visits for, young tweenies, teenies, for suicidal ideation,
Wow.
depression, anxiety, just all of the like the non-coping, right? Just not coping, can't deal.
Yeah.
And so then, how, especially in New York. So it's interesting that they highlighted New York, that the teachers are trained to or given tools to test do mental check-ins with their students. So I was kind of thinking about this because I think about this client of mine. So she had to do online school for 2 years because she had, not only was it COVID, but she was immune compromised because she had leukemia. So even though she's bright and
Yeah.
she's like a great scholar and all those things, she couldn't just go back to school. She had to do one additional year virtual school. So, she goes into class and, teacher doesn't know, right? Calls her out. She's ashamed. She's embarrassed. She's like, I'm stupid. I can't do long division, completely like falls back. And this poor teacher had no idea, didn't
Yeah.
know, like, the parents were not prepped on like open house day or like meet and greet
Yeah.
day at the beginning of the school year, that oh, by the way, if there are particular things you're worried about around your kid, around what happened in the pandemic, especially if they're going to new schools, make sure you let your teachers know. So just that breakdown in communication about facilitating, like, what happened with my kid over COVID and being in virtual environments, and now we're back, and what do we need to watch for and stuff like that. So the good news was, I'm kind of glad to hear that school boards are becoming aware of the fact that mental health check-ins are critical
They're
at this
calling.
point,
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
we're dealing with the aftermath of the pandemic, right? And even though it's like, yeah, we're back to normal, but like, now this is the thing, this is real, this is in our lives forever. And it's going to follow this group of kids in particular all the way till they graduate. So it's going to be really interesting to see what their social, kind of how they just, what their resilience factors are going to be like as they go through the rest of school. So I was kind of thinking like, okay, so teachers are getting, being given tools and they're being empowered to do these check-ins, but what can the parents do? So I thought maybe I would make a list of what are the 7 or so things that parents can ask, watch out for,
Hmm.
to facilitate that conversation with schools, because let's face it, not all school districts are made equal. And as parents, often it lies with us, to facilitate or to initiate that conversation, right?
Yeah.
So, so when I think about my client and her mom, I spent my time, you know, helping the mom understand that there are these systems in the school, and these are the types of questions you can go and ask. And oh, by the way, that's why we have teen life coaches, is so that we are that backstop. So um, one of the things is more teachers are going for certifications in coaching techniques like this because they're trauma informed. So let's just kind of spend a minute on what does trauma informed mean. So when a teacher or a coach or anybody is in an educational or a helping or a caring, nurturing setting, when you take a trauma informed approach, it means you've schooled or you've educated yourself on the fact that most likely everyone you come into contact with has had a history of trauma
Mm-hmm.
in some way, shape, or form, right? So, what does that mean? What are the signs and the clues that I need to watch for around trauma, the trauma informed approach? And when you've got that information, it's not just what the kids say or
Yep.
do, but it's also how they're coming across, the expressions on their faces, things like that. So, so the first thing that I would recommend that all parents do, even a school has started already, it doesn't matter. It's ask your kids when they come home from school, do your teachers ask you questions about how do you feel? How are you today? How are things going in the school? Is there anything you're struggling with? Some schools, the teachers have to do that one-on-one, right, with the kiddo. But in some schools, like in New York, they have iPads or tablets available where kids come into class and they take 5 minutes at the beginning of every day, and they're doing this little survey. So whether it's one-on-one questions with a teacher, whether it's a survey, whether it's a questionnaire, it would be good for parents to find out from their kids, is the teacher checking in with you on
Yeah.
any of these things, right? So that's the one part. The other part is, I don't want to say this. I know we have introverts and extroverts in classes and kids who are shy and so forth, but
True.
are
Mhm.
there group sessions or peer group times during class time where kids are checking in with each other with facilitated questions, like go around the circle and talk about what the worst part of your day is and then what the best part of your day is?
True.
What are the things you're looking forward to? What are the things you're dreading? So what kinds of group activities are there around checking in on each other's mental wellness? And then where in the schools, besides with the counselors are overwhelmed. They're dealing with college entries, they're dealing with your more acute cases in classes. So they're not going to deal with average little Joe over here, right? Because they've got to like most probably deal with the most like acute stuff. So is there a separate safe place at the school where a kid can go and put a concern in? I always think of those reality shows when they go into those little boxes and they can just talk to the camera.
Yes, yes. And they
Right.
spill their beans. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I always think like, is there like a space, anonymous space where you can just go in and do like a voice thing and it'll go into like a file and you can kind of voice a concern that way. So I kind of think about that and would be good for parents to find out if that even exists in their school. And then of course, the best possible scenario is to have the direct conversation with teachers. Now, I'm guilty here. I don't talk to my kids' teachers. Unless there's a problem, I've never actively said, hey, I want a meeting with you before the school year starts, especially once they reach middle school and high school. In elementary school, the teachers are a lot more hands-on and so forth, right? But once you get to middle school and high school, it's not that hands-on between the teachers and the parents,
Mm-hmm.
unless there's really something, specific that you're working on or going for. But, now hindsight is 2020. It's like, don't let that stop you just because they're becoming teenagers. I think it's really important for,
Yeah.
even if you're just shooting an email to that particular teacher saying, hey, she had anxiety around math in middle school. My guess might be it might come back. You might notice some anxiety, even though she's in high school and she's doing great, because there were certain triggers or things. Her confidence levels are not as high anymore since COVID, right? So it doesn't have to be this whole big meeting, but I think emailing those teachers and just really just letting them know, like, hey, I need you to keep an eye on my kid, right? And then PTAs. Do you get
Yes.
very involved with your PTA?
No, I pay for the membership. I don't. I do like their events, like we're doing a fundraiser with candy and wrapping paper now, but I don't go to the
Right.
meetings. No.
Yeah. So same thing, right? So I wonder, for the parents who are involved in PTAs, what kind of initiatives are there around mental wellness? Are they having events where they are inviting coaches in and letting, parents or doing a Zoom with parents, bringing a coach in and just talking about mental wellness post COVID with the teachers, right? So there are projects and initiatives that PTAs can definitely pull in with the funds that they have. And most of the time, like if I'm invited to go do something like this, I don't even need to be paid. I'll just do it for free, because it's 30 minutes where you're making this, big difference on just a Zoom call, with 30-minute Zoom call with parents on here's what to look out for. So I think PTAs could, if parents could, kind of tap into that a little bit more. You're paying for the membership, so you may as well just like use it to your advantage. So I was kind
Yep.
of thinking about that. And then of course, mentors, coaches, tutors, they are all part of that network. They're all part of helping that kid. And what I was able to do with my clients in this particular case was prepare the mom to, like, help the mom to write a letter to the teacher to say X, Y, and Z and request A, B, and C, and actually help with that, because sometimes parents just don't know what to say or know what to request or understand what a 504 plan is. And maybe that is necessary for that particular kid for just a short period of time, right?
Yep.
So anyway, yeah, that was just at the top of my mind this week. I was just, we think that everything's back to normal and everybody kind of follows back in, kind of falls back into the groove and the routine of everything, but it's still that those emergency room percentages were alarming to me, that we're still dealing with the fallout
Yep.
of that. And even though that was for 2020 compared to 2019, it would be, obviously we don't know yet, but it will be interesting to see what that number looks like in spring of next year, what those numbers may have looked like now that everybody's sort of kind of back in person. Yeah, so I'm curious about that number for sure.
Yeah, and what's happening? It's rising, and then in New York State, they said there's already like 9 counties that people are wearing masks again. And are we really going back to that? Is that going to happen with our schools?
I know, right?
And you're in Georgia for those listening, right?
Yeah, so whether you're in Georgia, Texas, California, it's like everybody's on tender hooks about it. So that's mask mandate where you guys are. Okay, so like here, for example, even if you have it, as long as you're masked up, you can still go to school. So I guess it's really different depending on where everything is. But you can, I can hear the stress in your voice by just saying it. Right? Like you can just feel the stress coming up by just the possibility that, oh my gosh, is there going to be a thing, And in flying, when I was flying, like I was surprised we did not need tests there or coming back. So yeah, and I tested negative coming back.
Yep.
So it's like I didn't even though I was in all those super spreader events, there's still no COVID here. So maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Also just want to remind everyone, myteenlifecoach.com. We're talking to Lisa Lane here. Other forms of contact. Do you want to give out your phone number or any other pages?
Yeah, sure. So let's see. On Facebook, it's my Liesl Coach. That's right. On Facebook, it's Liesl Coach. And then on Instagram, it's my teen coach. We're on LinkedIn, just under my name, Liesl Lane. And then I think we've got TikTok going to our social media manager, Serena, is constantly keeping us on our toes with interesting things happening on TikTok. But yeah, and then the website is www.myteenlifecoach.com. And you can text me as well at 770-235-8202 around any of these particular issues. You know, and even if you just need like what we do is 15-minute exploratory calls, and that allows us to kind of see if it's, you know, something easy or if it's something that even is in the realm of coaching, because there is that continuum between what is coaching and then what is therapy, you know. So sometimes I will get calls and some of the things that this teenager might be facing is more on the therapy line, which means that typically when a person needs therapy, and we have a checklist that we kind of go through, but if a person is unable to function on a day-to-day basis, like they can't get out of bed, they can't brush their teeth, they can't plan their day, they can't go through the day without some sort of major meltdown, normally that's, you know, space for some therapy or counseling. But if they are making it, they might still be stressed. They might still have, you know, anxiety or worry around whatever it is that's going on, but they have the ability to be ready, willing, and able to work through it. And what we do in coaching is work towards what we call work towards target. So the test that I normally do with them is I say, are you ready? And they'll say, what do you mean by that? And I'll say, are you ready to do the work? Because this is not just talking for talking's sake. You are ready to move through whatever it is you're struggling with. So that's number one. Are you willing? So that's key to, are you motivated? Do you want this badly enough that you are ready to engage? And then the other is able, and that means, can you put the time aside? Can you put the energy and the resources aside? And when you're yes to those three things, then usually it's a good candidate for coaching.
Awesome. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. We still have a few minutes left. What else did you want to add to our
let's see. I'm curious, have you with the boys, have you ever asked or wondered about what they do is, or has even better yet, has the school communicated with you?
Oh yeah, it's different. Like you mentioned, for elementary school, for kindergarten and first, second grade, it's they're hands-on. We're on an app called Remind Me. We're getting updates. We're getting letters home. So yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah, there's good communication, but you're right. I guess it's all going to end soon. Oh no.
So that's an interesting question. Like, so what would your expectations as a parent be when you hit sixth grade or junior high, and with what's your oldest name again? Jack.
Austin is the oldest, 7. Yep.
And he's now in second or third.
Austin's in second. Yep. Jackson's in kindergarten. Yep.
That's it. So, okay. So picture yourself like 3 years from now, and you are getting Austin ready for middle school. What kind of expectations do you have when you compare what you're getting now versus how you kind of learn to let go a little bit in middle school? However, there's not grown-ups yet, right?
Yeah, it's hard. You know, the oldest one doesn't want to communicate or talk about what's going on in school. They don't say anything. There's no like, the little one is more like, oh, I did this. My friend and I did this. We were on the bus and we did this game. And it's so, I miss hearing it, you know, but I understand that all changes, you know, and the oldest one Austin's always been so independent, always. So I know that about him already. And I trust him like with like things. He's just that person. So I'm not worried at all about him and the behavior and his, you know, but I just would love to have more, but like you said, I'm going to only get less soon. Right.
Yeah. Well, and the good news, at least my experience is, now they've got, I wonder if they do that in elementary school, but there's a way for you to text with parents now. So parents they text to receive text
Well,
updates and stuff.
that
from
it's
the school.
all about the communication and the texting. And that's why I love these. In Georgia, you don't have that, like the
We do.
Remind Me app. Oh, you do.
Mhm.
But so even for like high school students and stuff?
If the parent opts in, yes, then we do, but it's not just automatic.
Got
So
it.
if your kid doesn't tell you that there's this way to do it, then you won't necessarily know.
Yeah.
If you're a parent who is good about reading all the stuff that comes from the schools, from the principal, the weekly newsletters, and from the county and stuff like that, then you can. But if you're a parent who doesn't read emails,
That's true. And not everybody's privy to having that type of, and that's why they do send things home in school paperwork. But let's be honest, how often does the paperwork not make it? The other day, where's your homework, Austin? Oh, I don't know. I had it on the bus. They're young. They take it out, they play. They don't really. Yeah. So you're right. Then you can't expect everyone to have that mobile communication. It's not right. And not everybody has that type of money to have that all the time. And then you're dealing with, like in my son's class, who I adore. There's one little boy named Dominic, and his parents are from Ecuador, and they don't even speak English, but they come to everything, and and the little boy helps him and translates. But think about a situation like that. And then the boy comes home and has to, do math and do English and spelling, and their mother has to, that boy is very independent and on his own. So my heart goes out to those families who may not understand. It's not their fault. I just wonder what the schools do to help people like that, because there should be some type of translator or somebody who's involved that they could speak to in their language to help.
And then on the other, if you flip that coin, so like in Dominic's case, if he is struggling to get somewhere, you've got a teacher who's got like 20 some kids in class. So how do you give that individualized attention to each one of them? And then on top of that, follow up with the parents. So the onus really is on the parents to make the contact, to stay engaged, to, like if there's not communication, like if Austin gets so independent that you're like, hey, there's got to be something here,
I need,
right?
Yes.
Right. There's got to be a way for us to be able to kind of plug in there in some way, shape, or form, because I mean, God bless our teachers. When I was talking to this lady, she was like, people have no idea, because, like you have kids who are food insecure, who have got issues at home, and the teachers, they're taking all of this on. So I just really encourage parents to be the ones who are taking the initiative and reaching out, and not becoming lazy or just assuming and taking for granted that the education system is going to catch it all.
Absolutely. We have to be held accountable. Absolutely. And on that note, Lisa Elaine, we will end. I don't know if you saw the lights flicker here. I'm scared. It's lightning and thundering in New York. It's been raining for like 4 days, and thank God we still have a connection. But wow, that was loud. Everything just flickered, but we're good. I hear you. I see you. Okay. myteenlifecoach.com. Lisa Elaine, how else can we reach you?
Call me 770-235-8202. Go to my website and click the contact button, and you'll get in touch with me.
You are awesome. Pleasure to have you back here on the show. So excited you have a great vacation though, and you got to relax. You could see it in your face, hear it in your voice. Love speaking with you, Lisa. You have a fantastic day.
Thanks, Jill. See you next week.
You got it. Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.